adhere to rules and regulations in compliance, there are usually a lot of things that have to be done. You need the knowledge, you need the expertise, you need the commitment, you need the time, the processes. And for small businesses and entrepreneurs, they begin to wonder, do I need all of this? What will this do to the bottom line? Will I be making more money, or am I wasting time? Am I spending money that I should have been using that will go to the bottom line in complying with all these things? And maybe I should just bypass and try and make as much money as possible, try and make as much savings as I can. But I'd like us to go through this process and see. What's compliance? In general terms, compliance means conforming to a rule, such as a specification, a policy, or a standard. Then there's regulatory compliance, which describes the goal that organizations aspire to achieve their efforts to ensure that they are aware of and take steps to comply with relevant laws, policies, and regulations, guidelines, and specifications relevant to their business. Then business and corporate management compliance refers to the company obeying all the legal laws and regulations in regards to how they manage the business, their staff, and their treatment towards their consumers. The concept of compliance to make sure that corporations act responsibly. Compliance could be industry, operational, or business specific, or general, cutting across board. I'm going to be speaking generally on compliance, but of course, with the specific industries, of course, an easy example is the banking industry. And of course, we know what the central bank does, the NDIC does for the banking industry. There are also compliance in the professions. I can see a lot of accountants here, engineers and all that. But we'll just be looking at the general compliance across board. But in doing so, we need to know what laws, because compliance is adherence to laws. So we need to know what laws we're going to be looking at. And what I've done here is to just give a general, broad definition of applicable laws. And it covers not only the laws and the statutes, it covers regulations, bylaws by the local government, published policies, guidelines, even ministerial or departmental regulatory issues, orders, of course, principles of common law and civil law, approvals, if you need an approval, Standards Organization of Nigeria, NAFDAC, all those things are what are termed applicable laws for a general overview. Then I'll quickly run through some of the ones that are relevant to every business. You cannot start a business or run a business without adhering to the rules of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. That is the fundamental law, the primary law, as lawyers will call it, that regulates all businesses. Whether it's a limited liability company, whether it's a business name enterprise, whether it's an NGO, company limited by guarantee, or the other one, incorporated trustees, you all have to apply with the Companies and Allied Matters Act. But I'll just restrict myself to the business aspect of it, which is the Companies Act. Quickly, I'm saying that we need these documents. I'm sure we're all familiar with all of these documents. But again, it's useful to be aware that we need these documents, which stipulates the nature of the business. You need 2 shareholders in the beginning. You need 2 directors. You need a capital. And then when the company has been incorporated, what does it do? Why I'm making this point is that we all forget to appreciate the fact that when a company is incorporated, it becomes a legal entity on its own, separate from those who incorporated the company. As a lawyer, I have seen people prepare wills, and in their will, they are giving out assets that belong to the company because they believe they own the company, and so they own the assets that belong to the company. And then when the will is to be read, and there's a problem. Because, of course, those assets don't belong to the company. And so it's important that we understand that there's a dichotomy. Once a company has been incorporated, it becomes a separate legal entity, distinct from the people who have incorporated the company. All assets belonging to the company belong to the company. The only thing that anybody has is his shares in the company, and that's all he has, not the assets that form the company. For us lawyers, there's a locus classicus, which is called Solomon and Solomon, but I would not go into that. And of course, the issue of limited liability, which helps to limit the liability of the shareholders of that company. The board structure is also very important. You must always have the corporate structure. You have the shareholders, you have the board of directors, management, and staff. We're all familiar. That's another area that, especially with due respect to small businesses, there's a confusion between the shareholder and the board of directors. And again, I'd like to emphasize that there is a big difference between the roles of a shareholder. The shareholders only meet at annual general meetings or extraordinary general meetings, and that's where they take their decisions. The board is in charge of the day-to-day management of the company, and they have board meetings regularly.
If you have a business name, that is a business registered name, Titilayo Akitunde and Daughters Ventures Enterprises, you deal with the State Internal Revenue Service. Like the lawyer said, under the law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So I will advise that if you don't have the wherewithal in terms of knowledge about payment of taxes for both the federal and the state, LRS, they have a website. FRS also have a website. Or you can walk into any of the tax offices and you do that. Why I'm saying this, I want to go back to the madam that talked about the tax officer looking at them as fraud. Because under the law, you see, you are supposed to keep proper books of accounts. For individuals, that's why I spoke the other time. I said, as an individual business, you have to separate your business from your personal. And that's where we always get it wrong in Nigeria. People assume, it's my business, it's my money. But immediately you decide to run a limited liability company, it's not my business, my money again. You have to separate. And the only way you can do that, if you don't have the wherewithal, you can always get an accountant and a tax person to help you with those things, so you can separate. With small businesses that are registered name, it's really difficult. Because she said she normally pays her taxes there in the US. But in US, also you must keep documents of all your expenses and income. And that's what the law says. You must know your income, you must know your expenses. And that's the only way you can get the relief. So if you sell something, you did an LPO, and you made 10 naira, you must record that 10 naira. If you spend so much on it, you must record it. So that as a business owner that is a registered name, when at the end of the year you want to file your returns, you have to put all those things and put your expenses too. So we have that problem, please. People always equate the business money with their individual money. It's not supposed to be so. If you want to run a business, please let us learn to separate. Let us learn to get the professionals to help us out. We don't really need to have a full-time accountant. We can always get someone to come once in a while to help with the books, so that you, as even a business owner, you will know whether you are making money or not. Because in this climb, we always equate cash with profit, and they are not the same thing. You might have cash, and you might not be profitable. So please, I beg us to do that. As women, because we are superhuman. The women are superhuman. They want us to be the wife, to be the mother, to be the daughter, to be everything. So we need to do our taxes very well. I will also talk about VICE. Like I said, there's a website for VICE, that is the Voluntary Asset and Income Declaration Scheme. It is www.vaids.gov.ng. All the questions you need answered are there. And they also have the forms that you can go there and download. You can fill it online, or you can print it out and fill it and submit to the appropriate authorities. It is a joint tax thing. It's federal government and the state internal revenue services, as well as the federal inland revenue service. So it's for all taxes in Nigeria. Please, if you know you have not done that, please go there. We are there to serve you. Without the taxpayer, there is no taxman. Without the taxman, there is no taxpayer.
And since the advent of the fall in crude oil prices, Nigeria has had to reposition agriculture and its value chain as an alternative source of revenue. Now, domestic and foreign investors at an engagement gave an assessment of government's initiatives in the sector and proffered strategic solution for policy sustainability.
Government has been proactive, but I think it's time for us to start looking at maybe some kind of blended finance situation, a situation where government makes funds available, foreign governments, some of them have grants that are available, and then the commercial banks. You can put these funds all into one pit, average out the cost, and maybe be able to come up with lending rates that are more attuned to what we require in the agricultural subsector. And I think this would help a little bit. Some of the schemes that are in place have some positives, but there are also negatives. For instance, I'll talk about the CAC scheme, the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme. Its positives: one, single-digit financing, which is still too high. 9% is still very high, even though it's single-digit for agriculture. The term tenors, well, most of them are now medium-term. In terms of really investing in the value chain for agriculture, you need long-term investment. Even medium-term is not medium-term in 3 years in agriculture is short-term as far as I'm concerned. But then the drawbacks: very slow processing time. There's limited availability of funds. Recently, there was a circular that went out, even on the CAC scheme, limiting the exposure to individual firms to just 2 billion naira. 2 billion naira is nothing. 2 billion naira would not develop a small-scale palm oil plantation. So